Coming back this morning for the follow-up from last night's officer-involved shooting. At 7:55 p.m. Thursday night, narcotics detectives from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office Narcotics Unit were conducting an operation in the area of Firestone and 103rd Street. They actually were purchasing drugs from a male at the Chevron station there at the intersection. That male is identified as Devon Lavelle Mitchell, a 28-year-old black male. During the arrest and takedown of Mitchell, the police officers identified themselves as police officers, and Mitchell fled on foot, avoiding arrest, and ran across 103rd Street towards a closed business, which was across the intersection. The officers, the detectives, were chasing him on foot as he ran from them. When the suspect rounded the closed business across the street, the detectives reported hearing a shot being fired. The detectives took up a tactical position and returned fire, shooting a total of 6 times. The suspect, Mitchell, was struck 1 time in the left leg. He was transported to Shands Hospital, where he still remains in non-life-threatening condition. As crime scene was processed by crime scene detectives last evening, a loaded .380 caliber handgun was found in the location where the suspect was apprehended. The detectives involved in the shooting are identified as Detective J.C. Hux, who's a 10-year veteran with the Sheriff's Office. He fired a total of 5 shots. Detective G.W. Simpson is a 3-year veteran with the Sheriff's Office who fired 1 time. Suspect Mitchell was charged last night with the sale of narcotics, with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and attempted murder of a police officer. Suspect's criminal history involves a robbery shooting in 2001. He served 8 years in that case. He has somewhat of a limited criminal history because he spent the time since he was a juvenile to an adult. We're in January 2010 when he was released in state prison. Since 2010's release, he was charged with possession of narcotics in October of last year and then last night's events. If there's any questions, I can answer.
Where exactly was the gun found?
The gun was found behind that closed business, behind the Beltway Animal Hospital, on the ground where he discarded it.
Were you able to determine how many shots he fired?
At this point in time, we're still looking into that. The scene is being held behind the animal hospital. It was dark last night. We're looking for shell casings and evidence.
Have you at least confirmed that a shot was fired? Because I know so far it's been reported that they heard a shot being fired.
They reported that a shot was heard. At this point in time, it's still something we're looking into to try to verify how many had been shot from the suspect's weapon.
Chief Hackney, can you touch on how important it is to get a guy like this off the streets?
This Mitchell, again, like I said, he was arrested as a juvenile, spent 8 years in state prison, has only been out for less than a year. During the time that he was out, involved in narcotics as well. And then last night, in the course of selling narcotics to undercover narcotics detectives, fired shots, presumably at the detectives who were attempting to effect an arrest. It outlines not only how dangerous the work that police officers do, narcotic detectives especially, but the violent nature of this person. He needed to be in custody where he is now.
Were the only police officers that were there at the time those 2 detectives you named?
Those are the 2 detectives that were involved in the shooting. The entire squad of narcotics officers was there conducting the buy-bust operation.
Can you talk to how long this whole operation had spanned, and if not, then also what drugs? Was it just the marijuana?
Last night was just the marijuana for that. It was a whole evening of operations that they were doing. This is nothing out of the ordinary. This is kind of what these narcotics detectives do on a fairly regular basis. They could be working during the day. They could be working during the evening.
In other words, was it like a same-day event, or was this planned?
This was just what they call a buy-bust operation. It was a single event involving that particular suspect, Mitchell, who sold the undercover detectives the drugs.
And he was alone at the time?
He had a female in the vehicle with him at the time.
So this wasn't somebody that you sought after, that you knew was going to be doing this kind of activity? This was just something that...
This was not a prolonged investigation into Mitchell and his sale of drugs. This was a one-time thing that he did last night. And
you said 6 shots were fired. How many times was he hit?
He was hit 1 time in the left leg.
Any other questions?
The 2 officers involved in the shooting, did they have any shootings in their past?
This is both of the officers involved in his first shooting.
And the 2001 shooting that the suspect was involved in, do you have any details of the robbery shooting?
It was a robbery shooting. I can get some details and get that to y'all for his criminal history.
And one last thing, was the gun completely loaded that y'all found, the .380?
The .380 was loaded. There was 1 in the chamber. There was 4 rounds in the magazine of that gun.
So there was a couple...
He had more shots he could have taken.
Are the officers still working, or are they on
The
any kind of
officers,
leave?
as per standard protocol and policy, have been placed on administrative leave, and the case will be reviewed and the decision made when they return to work.
And you said there still is a scene out there that they're looking for the shell casings?
Yeah, again, this happened late in the evening at start. You're looking for very small shell casings, held until it's daylight, and they'll be working that today as well.
One thing I wanted to ask you about too, as far as I could tell last night, it seems like this could have been a lot worse if the shots had been fired. If he had shot at you guys, at least at the gas station. Luckily, it didn't happen there, but there were people there, and I don't know if you could touch on just the fact that this could have been a lot worse. Luckily, he was in a place where there weren't people, but
It's difficult to what could have happened there. Again, what these narcotics detectives do and the clientele that they deal with, it makes it inherently dangerous for what they do, as evidence from what Mitchell did. It obviously could have been a whole lot worse. Luckily, none of the police officers or detectives were injured. No bystanders or citizens were hit or injured. The person that was hit is the one who started the incident.
In the event that you don't find the shell casing, is there a possibility of that attempted murder charge getting dropped, or is that still?
That's a decision the state attorney will make
Sure.
as to charges where they go.
Any other questions? All right.
Thanks for your
Thank you.
cooperation.
Thank you.